The morning sun cut through the fog at Naval Base Coronado like a blade through silk. Colonel Jack Morrison stood before 30 young faces in the sniper training facility. His hands rested on the rifle stock. Steady, or so they appeared. 58 years old, 30 years of service, 300 confirmed kills, two knees that ached when rain was coming, and hands that trembled when no one was looking. Morrison demonstrated the rifle assembly. His fingers moved with practiced precision, muscle memory carved into bone by 3 decades of repetition. But halfway through removing the bolt carrier group, his right hand stuttered. Just a fraction, a tremor so slight most men would miss it. The student in the front row noticed. Morrison covered. He reached for his coffee mug with his left hand, took a slow sip, let the moment pass like smoke and wind. "Coffee," he said. His voice carried the gravel of 1,000 mission briefs. "Too much this morning." The students nodded. They believed him. Why wouldn't they? He was Ghost, the legend, the man who had trained their instructors. Morrison continued the demonstration. But inside, behind the mask of confidence he had worn for 30 years, something cold settled in his chest. He was running out of time. The Parkinson's diagnosis sat in his desk drawer like a loaded weapon. 6 months ago, early stage, manageable with medication, but progressive, inevitable. 2 months until retirement. 2 months until he could finally stop pretending he was the man he used to be. The class ended at noon. Morrison dismissed the students. He watched them file out. Young, strong, hands that didn't shake, futures that stretched ahead like highways to horizons they couldn't yet imagine. He envied them. He pitied them. They didn't know yet what war actually cost. Not the obvious prices like blood and brothers, but the quiet costs, the way your body betrayed you 20 years after the last bullet flew, the way your wife died of cancer while you were deployed and you came home to an empty house and a flag in a triangle case, the way your daughter grew up calling you sir instead of dad because you'd taught her discipline but forgotten to teach her love. Morrison locked the rifle in the armory. His hands shook worse now that the students were gone. He pulled the pill bottle from his pocket. Levodopa, carbidopa. The names meant nothing. The pills meant everything. 3 times a day. Keep the tremors at bay. Keep the mask in place. He swallowed 2 pills dry. Then he sat in the empty classroom and stared at his hands. They had steadied rifle stocks on 5 continents, pulled triggers that ended evil men before they could hurt good people, held his wife's hand as cancer ate her from the inside, steadied his infant daughter in the delivery room while his wife smiled and said, "She looks just like you." These hands had built a life. Now they were failing him. Morrison's phone buzzed. Text from Captain James Chen. "Team dinner tonight, 1800, Mavericks. Don't even think about bailing." Morrison smiled despite himself. James Chen, 45 years old, his oldest friend in the service. They'd gone through buds together in 1998, served in Iraq side by side. Chen knew about the Parkinsons. He was the only one who knew, and he refused to let Morrison disappear into old age without a fight. Morrison typed back, "I'll be there." He walked to his truck. The San Diego sun felt too bright, too honest. It illuminated every line on his face, every gray hair, every year he'd traded for this uniform. At home, he showered, shaved, put on civilian clothes that felt wrong after 30 years of uniforms. He looked in the mirror. The face that stared back was a stranger. When had he gotten old? It happened while he wasn't paying attention, while he was focused on missions and medals and making sure other people came home alive. Morrison pulled a photograph from his wallet. His wife, Karen, blonde hair, blue eyes, smile that could stop his heart. Dead 5 years now. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 18 months from diagnosis to funeral. He'd been with her at the end, held her hand, watched the light fade from her eyes. She'd squeezed his fingers and whispered, "Finish your mission, Jack. Then come find me." He still didn't know what mission she meant. At 1800 hours, Morrison walked into Maverick's Bar and Grill. The team sat in the back corner. Captain James Chen, Senior Chief Marcus Webb, Petty Officer David Santos, Petty Officer Rachel Foster, and Lieutenant Alex Kane. Morrison slid into the booth. Chen poured him a beer without asking. "To Webb," Chen said, raising his glass, "who somehow got uglier this week." Marcus Webb flipped him off. 38 years old, demolitions expert, built like a truck and about as subtle. He grinned. That's rich coming from someone whose last haircut made him look like a DMV photo. The table laughed. The kind of laughter soldiers share, the kind that says we've seen death together and we're still here, and that means something. David Santos sat quietly checking his phone. 29. Communications specialist. The tech genius who could hack enemy networks in his sleep. He was quiet by nature. Observant. The kind of operator who missed nothing. Rachel Foster was the youngest. 26. Medic. Idealistic in the way only young soldiers can be. She still believed in the mission. Still trusted that what they did mattered. Morrison envied that too. And then there was Alex Kane. 28 years old. 5'7", 140 pounds. Calm gray eyes that rarely blinked. Navy SEAL sniper. Morrison's protégé. The best shooter he'd trained in 3 decades. She watched Morrison the way a hawk watches a field mouse. Constantly. Carefully. She knew something was wrong. Morrison could feel it. Dinner arrived. Burgers and fries and the kind of greasy American food that tasted like nostalgia. The team talked about upcoming training exercises, new equipment, bureau politics. Morrison let the conversation wash over him. He was present but distant, a ghost at his own table. Webb launched into a story about a botched training op in Arizona. Morrison had heard it before, but he smiled anyway. Let the younger man have his moment. So there I am, Webb said, gesturing with a French fry. 40 pounds of C4, timer set for 30 seconds, and the detonator won't sync with my phone. Because you dropped it in the lake, Chen interjected. Because the equipment was faulty, Webb corrected. And I'm running like hell back to the safe zone. 10 seconds left, 5, and I dive behind this boulder. Morrison's attention drifted. He watched the young faces around the table. They were good people, good operators. They trusted him, looked up to him, saw him as the man he used to be. What would they think when they saw the truth? When the tremors got worse? When he couldn't assemble a rifle without dropping pieces? When Ghost became just another old man whose body quit before his mind did? Colonel? Morrison blinked. Alex was watching him. Her voice pulled him back. You okay, sir? Fine, Morrison said, just tired. You've been saying that a lot lately. There it was, that observation, that careful attention that made her a great sniper. Nothing escaped Alex Kane. Not a target at 800 meters. Not the fact that her instructor was falling apart. Getting old, Morrison said. He tried to make it sound like a joke. Alex didn't smile. The meal ended. The team drifted toward the parking lot. Morrison lingered. Chen fell into step beside him. You need to tell them, Chen said quietly. Tell them what? Don't bullshit me, Jack. I've known you 26 years. Morrison stopped walking. The parking lot was mostly empty. Street lights buzzed overhead. Moths circled the lights like tiny fighters in holding patterns. Tell them what? Morrison repeated. That their instructor is broken? That Ghost is just an old man who takes pills to keep his hands from shaking? Tell them you're human, Chen said. They'd understand. Would they? Morrison looked at his friend. Or would they see me differently? Stop trusting me? Start questioning every call I make in the field? Chen was quiet for a moment. Then he said, what happens when you can't hide it anymore? Morrison didn't answer because the truth was he didn't know. He'd spent 30 years being Ghost, being the legend, being the man who never missed, never hesitated, never showed weakness. He didn't know how to be anything else. There's a mission brief tomorrow, Chen said. Euro 900, SKAF, Rhodes wants us all there. Morrison nodded. What's the op? Don't know. Classified, but it's domestic. That's all I heard. Domestic. That meant U.S. soil, rare for SEAL teams. Usually they worked overseas. Foreign enemies, foreign problems. I'll be there, Morrison said. He drove home through dark streets. San Diego at night, city of sailors and stories. He'd lived here for 20 years. It should have felt like home. But home was a word that lost meaning when you deployed more than you stayed. When the only constant was motion. When the only family was the men and women who wore the same uniform. At home, Morrison took his evening pills. Then he sat in his study. The room was lined with photographs, deployments, ceremonies, brothers in arms, some still alive, many not. One photo stood out. Morrison and a young lieutenant named Thomas Wade, 1991. Gulf War. They were laughing, arms around each other's shoulders, best friends. Before Wade turned. Before he sold classified intelligence for money. Before Morrison had to hunt him. That was 33 years ago. Morrison had caught Wade in the act. Turned him in, but Wade escaped custody before the court-martial. Disappeared into the shadows of the mercenary world. Became a ghost himself. Morrison had always wondered if Wade remembered, if somewhere in the dark corners of the world, Thomas Wade still thought about the friend who'd betrayed him by refusing to betray their brothers. Morrison's phone buzzed, his unknown number. He almost ignored it. Then something told him to answer. He swiped accept. Silence on the line, just breathing. "Hello," Morrison said. A voice, distorted, electronic, but familiar in a way that made Morrison's blood run cold. "Hello, Ghost." Morrison stood. His hand found his sidearm without thinking. Old habits. "Who is this? You don't recognize me?" The voice laughed, bitter. 33 years and you forget your best friend? Morrison's mouth went dry. "Tommy." "That's right, Jack. Tommy Wade, or as you used to call me, Reaper." Morrison's mind raced. How did Wade get this number? How did he even know Morrison was still active? "What do you want, Tommy?" "A reunion," Wade said. "It's been too long, and I'm tired of waiting." "Waiting for what?" "For you to pay for what you did. You ruined my life, Jack, my career, my honor, everything I was. You took it. You took it yourself," Morrison said, "when you sold out your brothers." "I did what I had to do. You wouldn't understand. You with your perfect record, your medals, your legacy." Wade's voice twisted with venom. "But legacy means nothing when you're dead." "Are you threatening me?" "Not threatening. Promising." Wade paused. "Olympic National Forest. Remember that operation we planned in '91? The one that never happened because I got arrested?" Morrison remembered. They'd spent weeks designing an infiltration strategy for a theoretical mission in Washington state. Forest warfare, close quarters, every detail mapped. "I remember." "Good," Wade said, "because we're going to run it. Tomorrow night, you and me, just like old times. Except this time, only one of us walks out." "You're insane." "Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of living in your shadow." Wade's voice dropped to a whisper. "Check your mission brief tomorrow, Ghost. Olympic National Forest. Funny how things work out." The line went dead. Morrison stood in his study, phone in one hand, sidearm in the other, his mind spinning through possibilities. Wade knew about the mission. That meant someone leaked it. Someone with access to classified operations. Wade had a mole. Or worse, Wade was the mission, the target they were being sent to find. Morrison's hands shook, not from Parkinson's this time, from something older, something colder. Fear. He hadn't felt genuine fear in 20 years. But Thomas Wade wasn't some random enemy. Wade knew Morrison's tactics, his strategies, his weaknesses. They'd been brothers. They'd trained together, bled together. Wade knew Ghost better than anyone alive, and now he was calling, in a debt, 33 years old. Morrison sat down, thought about calling Chen, thought about reporting the threat. But something stopped him. Pride, maybe, or shame, or the knowledge that if he reported this, they'd pull him from the mission, send someone else. And Wade had made it clear this was personal. This was between Ghost and Reaper. Morrison didn't sleep that night. He sat in his study, cleaning weapons he'd cleaned 1,000 times, checking gear, running scenarios. His hands shook less when they had purpose, when they were preparing for war. At 700, he took his morning pills, showered, put on his uniform, the digital camouflage pattern, the trident on his chest, the rank insignia he'd earned through blood and time. He looked in the mirror one last time. Ghost stared back. At 0900, the team assembled in the sensitive compartmented information facility. The SGIF was underground. No windows, no phones, no connection to the outside world. Just classified operations and the people cleared to know about them. Colonel Karen Rhodes stood at the front of the room, 53 years old, base commander, former Navy aviator. She'd flown combat missions in Afghanistan, earned her stars through competence and courage. Morrison respected her. Rhodes pulled up a map on the screen. Olympic National Forest, Washington State, dense vegetation, mountainous terrain, thousands of square miles of wilderness. "Gentleman, lady," Rhodes nodded to Alex, "we have a domestic terrorism situation." She clicked to the next slide. Photos of military equipment, encrypted radios, thermal imaging systems, explosives. All U.S. military issue. 3 weeks ago, a supply convoy was hit outside Fort Lewis. The attackers knew the route, the timing, the security protocols. They got away with enough hardware to outfit a small army. Rhodes clicked again. Satellite imagery, thermal signatures in Olympic National Forest. NSA intercepted encrypted communications. Someone is operating a training facility in the forest. teaching domestic terrorists how to use our own equipment against us. The intelligence suggests 40 to 50 combatants, professional level training, and they're planning something big. Webb leaned forward. What's the mission? Reconnaissance only, Rhodes said. Insertion at 2200 tonight. You'll have 12 hours to locate their base, map it, identify leadership, then extract its secondary point. No engagement unless absolutely necessary. Morrison stared at the map. The insertion coordinates. Grid Alpha 7. The same coordinates he and Wade had marked 33 years ago. The theoretical operation they designed as an exercise. Wade had remembered every detail. This wasn't coincidence. This was revenge. Rules of engagement? Chen asked. Observe and report. If compromised, defend yourselves. But the goal is intelligence gathering. We need to know who's running this operation, who's funding it, and what they're planning. Rhodes looked at Morrison. Colonel Morrison will lead. Captain Chen second in command. Full tactical team. Questions? Santos raised his hand. Communications protocol? Standard encrypted channels. But be advised, these people have our equipment. Our encryption. Assume they can monitor anything we transmit. Use burst transmissions only. Minimal radio chatter. Foster spoke up. Medical extraction if needed. Helicopter on standby at McCord Air Force Base. 30-minute flight time, but insertion is covert. If you need medical extraction, your position is compromised, so don't get shot. Morrison absorbed the details, the mission parameters, the risks. Every word Rhodes said matched the operation he and Wade had planned decades ago. Wade wasn't just leaking information. He was running the playbook they'd written together. Colonel Morrison, Rhodes said, any concerns? Morrison met her eyes. He could tell her about Wade's call, about the threat, about the personal nature of this mission. But if he did, Rhodes would pull him, send another team, and Wade would just wait, plan another ambush, target other operators. This had to end tonight. No concerns, ma'am, Morrison said. We'll get you the intel. Rhodes nodded. Dismissed. Wheels up at 2100. Get your gear ready. The team filed out. Morrison lingered. Rhodes caught his arm. Jack, she said quietly. You okay? You seem off. Just focused, Morrison said. You're 2 months from retirement. You don't have to take this mission. I can send another team. This is what I do, Karen, what I've always done. Rhodes studied him. Your hands were shaking during the brief. So she'd noticed. Of course she had. Rhodes missed nothing. I'm fine, Morrison said. If you can't, I'm fine. They stared at each other. Commander and subordinate, friend and friend. Finally, Rhodes nodded. Bring them home, Ghost. Morrison left the skiff. The California sun felt too bright again, too revealing. He walked across the base toward the armory. His phone buzzed. Text from Alex. Sir, we need to talk. Morrison typed back. Busy, later. Now, please. Morrison changed direction, headed for the training building. Alex waited outside. Her face was serious, those gray eyes that missed nothing fixed on him like targeting lasers. What is it, Lieutenant? Sir, with respect, something is wrong. You've been different for months. And this mission, you seem scared. I'm not scared. Then what? Morrison looked around. They were alone. No witnesses. He made a decision, maybe the wrong one. But Alex deserved the truth. Some of it, at least. The people were hunting. Their leader, I know him. Alex's eyes widened slightly. How? We served together. Long time ago. Before you were born. He turned, betrayed the team. I caught him. He got away. Now he's back. And he knows you're coming. Yes. Then this is a trap. Yes. Alex was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she said, we should report this, change the mission parameters. If we do, he'll just wait, target someone else. This is between him and me. It has to end tonight. Sir, that's not tactical thinking. That's emotional. Maybe, Morrison said, but some fights are personal. You'll understand someday. Alex looked at him, really looked at him. Not at Ghost the Legend, but at Jack Morrison, the man, the aging warrior who was running out of time and knew it. I'm coming with you, she said. Lieutenant, I'm your spotter, your backup. That's not negotiable, sir. Morrison wanted to argue, wanted to order her to stay behind. But he knew that look, the determination, the loyalty. He'd trained her too well. Okay, he said, but you follow my lead. Exactly, understood? Yes, sir. Morrison spent the afternoon preparing. He checked his rifle. M11010 semi-automatic sniper system. 7.62 NATO rounds, 20-round magazine, Schmidt and Bender scope. He'd used this rifle for 8 years, knew every scratch, every quirk. It was an extension of his body that was failing. At 1800, Morrison went to his quarters, sat at his desk, pulled out paper and pen, started writing a letter. Sarah, if you're reading this, I didn't make it home. I'm sorry. I know I wasn't the father you deserved. I was gone too much, missed too many birthdays and holidays and moments that mattered. I thought the mission was more important. I was wrong. You were always more important. You and your mother, but I didn't know how to be both, how to be Ghost and Dad. So I chose Ghost. I'm sorry. I hope you can forgive me. And I hope you understand that everything I did to make the world safer. For you, so you could live free. That was the mission your mother meant. Keep you safe. Keep you free. I love you more than words can say. More than I ever showed. Dad. Morrison folded the letter, put it in an envelope, wrote Sarah's name on it, left it in his desk drawer. If he died tonight, Chen would find it. Chen would make sure Sarah got it. At 2100, the team loaded into a C-130, the cargo plane that had carried soldiers and equipment across 5 continents for 50 years. Morrison strapped into his seat. Chen sat beside him. You seem calm, Chen said over the engine noise. I'm focused. Jack, if this goes sideways, it won't. But if it does, promise me you won't do anything stupid. Morrison looked at his oldest friend, the man who'd been beside him through every deployment, every loss, every victory. I promise to bring everyone home, Morrison said, including myself. Chen didn't look convinced, but he nodded. The flight lasted 90 minutes. Morrison spent it in silence. Eyes closed, not sleeping, meditating. The ghost-breathing technique he'd perfected in Vietnam. 4 counts in, 7 hold, 8 out. Slow the heartbeat, calm the mind, become still water. His hands didn't shake when he was in the zone. At 2200 hours, they were over the drop zone. Olympic National Forest spread below them like a dark ocean. Millions of trees, thousands of shadows. Somewhere down there, Tommy Wade was waiting. Somewhere down there, Ghost would become just a man again. The team stood, checked their gear one final time. Morrison looked at each face. Chen, Webb, Santos, Foster, Alex. Good people, good operators. He would bring them home, all of them, or he would die trying. The ramp dropped. Cold air rushed in. Morrison stepped to the edge. Below him, darkness and destiny waited. He jumped. The forest canopy rose up. Morrison pulled his chute, the black parachute designed for night operations, nearly invisible. He guided himself through the trees, branches scraped past. Then his boots hit earth. Silent landing. Textbook. He pulled his chute down, buried it. The team materialized around him. 6 operators, 1 mission. Morrison checked his compass. They had 12 hours until extraction. 12 hours to locate Wade's facility, map it, get out. 12 hours for Ghost to face Reaper. Morrison signaled to the team. They moved into formation. He took point. Alex fell in behind him as spotter. Chen and Webb covered the flanks. Santos and Foster brought up the rear. They moved through the forest like smoke, silent, invisible. This was what SEALs did, what they were built for. But something was wrong. Morrison stopped, raised his fist. The team froze. He listened. The forest was silent, too silent. No birds, no insects, no small animals moving through undergrowth. The forest was dead quiet. That meant predators nearby, something that scared the wildlife into silence. Morrison keyed his radio. 1 click. Danger close. Alex moved up beside him, whispered, Sir? Listen. She did. Her eyes widened. She heard it too, or rather heard the absence of it. We're being watched, Morrison breathed. Before Alex could respond, the night exploded. Claymore mines detonated, the distinctive crack of C4 and ball bearings. Morrison threw himself sideways, rolled, came up firing, but the ambush was perfectly positioned, overlapping fields of fire, no cover, no escape. Webb was closest to the first detonation. The blast caught him full. He was dead before he hit the ground. Webb, Foster screamed. Morrison shouted orders. Fall back. Move, now. But there was nowhere to fall back to. The enemy had positioned their kill zone perfectly, exactly where Morrison would have positioned it, because Tommy Wade knew how Ghost thought. Santos tried to reach his radio. 3 rounds punched through his chest. He collapsed. Radio sparking and dying beside him. Foster crawled toward Santos. David, stay with me. Morrison grabbed Foster's vest, hauled her backward. He's gone. Move. Chen provided covering fire, his rifle barking in controlled bursts. Jack, we're surrounded. Morrison's mind raced. They'd walked into the exact trap he'd designed 33 years ago. Every detail, every angle. Wade hadn't just remembered, he'd perfected it. Chen, Morrison shouted. Take Foster. Circle east. Rally Point Bravo. What about you? Alex and I will draw their fire. Go. Chen hesitated. Morrison saw the conflict in his friend's eyes. Leave Ghost behind or follow orders. That's an order, Captain. Chen grabbed Foster. She was crying, trying to reach Santos's body. Chen pulled her into the darkness. They vanished into the forest. Alex appeared beside Morrison. Sir, we need to... An explosion cut her off. Grenade landed between them. Morrison had 1 second to decide. Cover it. Push Alex away. Let it kill him. He dove. His body covered the grenade. Wait for the blast. Wait for the end. 3 seconds passed. Nothing. Sir! Alex was pulling at him. It's a dud. Move. Morrison rolled off to the grenade, stared at it. Old Soviet-style RGD-5. He'd seen thousands, never seen one fail to detonate. Unless someone wanted it to fail. Unless Wade wanted Morrison alive. Gunfire erupted behind them. The enemy closing in. Morrison scrambled to his feet. Grabbed Alex. Ravine, now! They ran. Bullets snapped past. Morrison felt one tug at his sleeve. Another kicked up dirt at his feet. Then the ground disappeared. They tumbled down a steep ravine. Rocks and roots and darkness. Morrison hit bottom, felt his shoulder wrench. Pain exploded right behind his eyes. Alex landed beside him. Colonel! Morrison gasped, tried to breathe. His shoulder was dislocated, maybe broken. He reached up, grabbed his own arm, pulled. The joint popped back into place with a sound like a branch snapping. Morrison bit down a scream. Above them, voices. Flashlights. The enemy searching. Alex pulled Morrison deeper into the ravine, into shadows. They crawled into a hollow beneath an overturned tree, pressed themselves flat. Morrison's breath came in shallow gasps. The pain in his shoulder was incredible. Alex reached for medical supplies. Morrison stopped her, shook his head. No time, no noise. They lay still. Morrison counted heartbeats. Above them, soldiers moved. Professional, thorough, not random militiamen. These were trained operators. Zone clear, someone said. American accent. No bodies recovered. A radio crackled. Confirmed. 5 down, 1 missing. Continue sweep. 5 down. That meant they thought Morrison was dead or dying. Either way, they'd stopped looking for him here. Good. Morrison waited 15 minutes, then 20. His shoulder throbbed. His hands shook from pain and shock. But slowly the enemy moved away, their voices fading into the forest. Alex looked at Morrison. Her face was pale, blood on her cheek. She'd hit something during the fall. Sir, she whispered, we need to assess. Morrison nodded. They did a quiet inventory. His radio was smashed. Shoulder injured but functional. Rifle intact. 3 magazines, 60 rounds. Alex's radio worked for receiving, not transmitting. The fall had damaged something, but she could listen, hear enemy comms. That was something. The others? Alex breathed. Chen and Foster made it out. I heard them running. Webb and Santos. Morrison stopped, forced himself to finish. They're gone. Alex's jaw tightened, but she didn't cry, didn't break. She was Ghost student. She knew how to compartmentalize. What now, she asked. Morrison thought. They were cut off. No comms, no extraction. Enemy forces hunting them. The smart play was to evade. Hide until dawn, try to link up with Chen and Foster. But Tommy Wade was out there, and Wade had killed 2 of Morrison's people. Good people. Webb with his stupid jokes. Santos with his quiet competence. Dead because Wade wanted revenge. Morrison had 2 choices, run or hunt. He looked at Alex, saw himself at her age, young, strong, certain of immortality. Before the years and the losses and the Parkinsons taught him that everyone breaks eventually. Sir, Alex said, orders? Morrison made his decision, maybe the wrong one, but the only one he could live with. We hunt, he said. Sir, Wade wants me. This whole mission is a trap for me specifically. He'll keep hunting my people until he gets me. Then we call for extraction, get reinforcements. By the time they arrive, Chen and Foster could be dead. Wade has 40 soldiers, professional training, our equipment, and he knows this forest as well as I do. So what's your plan? Morrison met her eyes. I taught you everything I know. Now I need you to trust me. Alex looked at him, really looked at him, and Morrison saw the moment she understood. This wasn't about tactics or strategy. This was about legacy, about an old warrior facing his past before his body quit completely. "How do you want to play this?" Alex asked quietly. Morrison pulled out his knife, started cutting branches, weaving them into his ghillie suit, becoming part of the forest. "Wade knows I'm here, knows I'm hurt. He'll expect me to run. So we don't run. We become ghosts. We make him afraid. We make his people see shadows, and we turn his trap into his grave." Alex nodded, started preparing her own camouflage. "What about Chen and Foster?" "They'll make it to the rally point. Chen is smart. He'll wait for dawn, then move to secondary extraction." "And us?" Morrison loaded a fresh magazine into his rifle. Despite the pain in his shoulder, his hands were steady. Fear and adrenaline had burned away the tremors, for now. "We do what we came here to do," Morrison said. "We hunt." They waited until full dark. Then Morrison began to move, not away from the enemy, but parallel to their search pattern, stalking. Alex followed, silent as shadow. This was what he'd trained her for. Not the shooting, that was easy, but the patience, the stillness, the ability to become part of the earth itself. They moved for an hour. Morrison's shoulder screamed. He ignored it. Pain was just information. It told you that you were still alive. Ahead, voices. Morrison stopped, raised his fist. They crept forward. 3 enemy soldiers, checkpoint position, smoking cigarettes, rifles leaning against trees. "Sloppy," Morrison observed. Counted their mistakes. No proper security perimeter. No light discipline. Clustered together instead of maintaining spacing. These weren't SEALs, weren't even Marines. They were contractors, maybe. Mercs. Good training, but no discipline when they thought they'd won. Morrison could take them. 3 quick shots. But that would alert the entire force. Better to create confusion. He signaled Alex, "Stay here. Cover me." Morrison circled the position. Silent as winter dawn, he reached the checkpoint from behind. The soldiers were laughing about something, completely unaware. Morrison moved their equipment, shifted rifles, repositioned ammunition, left false trails in multiple directions, made it look like several people had been there. Then he withdrew. Back with Alex to ship down more bags. Alex, they watched. 20 minutes later, another patrol arrived. Saw the disturbed equipment. Radios crackled. "Team 3 report. Sir, something is wrong. Equipment has been moved. Trail leads east." "Negative. We just cleared east. Check your perimeter." "Sir, multiple trails heading different directions." Confusion in the radio chatter. Exactly what Morrison wanted. "How many do you see?" "Unclear. At least 3, maybe more." Morrison smiled without humor. Let them imagine a force that didn't exist. Let them see ghosts everywhere. He and Alex moved again. Always ahead of the search pattern, always leaving traces that didn't quite make sense. A footprint here, a broken branch there, signs that suggested multiple operators working in coordination. By midnight, the enemy radio traffic was frantic. Tracks leading east. Blood trail, no body. Impossible for one person. And then the question Morrison had been waiting for. The voice was older, rougher, familiar even through the radio static. "Who is hunting us?" "Tommy Wade, Reaper, speaking to his people." Morrison keyed his broken radio. It couldn't transmit. But maybe some signal would leak through. Some fragment. He whispered into it. One word. "Ghost." Static. Then silence. Then Wade's voice again. Different tone. Surprised. Maybe afraid. "He's alive. Morrison is alive. Find him now." The hunt intensified. More soldiers deployed. More patrols. Morrison and Alex stayed ahead of them. Ghosts in the forest. But Morrison's shoulder was getting worse. The adrenaline was wearing off. Pain creeping back. And his hands were starting to shake again. The medication had worn off hours ago. Alex noticed. "Sir, you need medical attention." "I'm fine." "You're not. I can see you shaking." Morrison stopped. They were deep in the forest now, far from any enemy position. He sat against a tree, the weight of 30 years suddenly crushing. "I have Parkinson's," he said, "early stage. The tremors, they're getting worse." Alex stared at him. "How long have you known?" 6 months. "And you didn't tell anyone?" "Just Chen, and now you." "Sir, this changes the mission. We need to—" "It changes nothing," Morrison said. "I can still shoot. I can still lead. I just need to rest. 5 minutes." Alex looked at him. He saw pity in her eyes. He hated it. I don't need your pity, Lieutenant. It's not pity, sir. It's concern. You're hurt. You're sick. And you're trying to hunt a man who wants to kill you. That's the job. The job is to complete the mission and come home alive. Morrison looked at his hands. Even in the dark, he could see them trembling. I'm 58 years old, he said quietly. I've given 30 years to this uniform. Missed my wife's final months because I was deployed. Watched my daughter grow up in photographs. Lost count of how many funerals I've attended. How many brothers I've put in the ground. Sir, 2 months, Morrison continued. 2 months until I retire. Until I'm just another old man who used to be somebody. And this is my last mission. My last chance to be Ghost one more time. Before my body quits. Before I can't hold a rifle without dropping it. Before I become the thing I've always feared. Useless. Alex was quiet. Then she said, "You taught me that courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about doing the job despite the fear." I remember. Then let me do my job. Let me be your backup. Your hands may shake, sir, but mine don't. You're not alone. Morrison looked at her. This young warrior he'd trained, who'd somehow become more than a student, more than a subordinate, almost a daughter. Okay, he said. Together then. Together. They rested 5 minutes. Then Morrison stood, shoulder aching, hands trembling, but mind sharp. He'd been in worse shape in worse places and survived. He could do this. Morrison led Alex deeper into the night. They had 8 hours until dawn, 8 hours to locate Wade's base, 8 hours for Ghost to face Reaper. Somewhere ahead, Tommy Wade was waiting. Somewhere ahead, the past was coming due. Morrison checked his rifle one more time. 20 rounds per magazine, 3 magazines, 60 rounds total. He would make every single one count. The forest stretched ahead into darkness. But Morrison wasn't afraid of the dark. He'd spent his whole life learning to own it, to become it. Ghost breathing, 4 counts in, 7 hold, 8 out. Steady the heart, calm the mind, become the night. Morrison moved forward, Alex beside him. 2 warriors hunting their demon through the Olympic forest. The old guard and the new. The legend and the legacy. Behind them, 2 bodies lay cooling in the undergrowth. Webb and Santos, good men who deserved better. Ahead somewhere, Chen and Foster were moving towards safety. At least Morrison hoped so. And out there in the darkness, Tommy Wade waited with 40 soldiers and 33 years of hatred. The last hunt had begun. And Colonel Jack Morrison, United States Navy SEAL, callsign Ghost, was running out of time to finish what he'd started so long ago. His hands shook as he gripped his rifle. But for now, in this moment, in this forest, with this mission, Jack Morrison was still Ghost. And Ghost didn't miss. Dawn came to Olympic National Forest like a rumor. Gray light filtering through the canopy. Mist rising from the earth like the breath of sleeping giants. Morrison had not slept. Sleep was a luxury for men who weren't being hunted. He sat with his back against a massive Douglas fir. His shoulder throbbed, a dull ache that pulsed with every heartbeat. He'd taken pills from the emergency kit in his vest. Ibuprofen, not enough, but better than nothing. Alex sat 15 feet away, keeping watch. She hadn't slept either. Morrison could see the exhaustion in the set of her shoulders, but her rifle never wavered. Her eyes never stopped scanning. Ghost student. Morrison pulled out his remaining pills. The Parkinson's medication, he had enough for 1 more dose, maybe 2 if he cut them in half. After that, his hands would shake uncontrollably. After that, he would be a liability. He dry swallowed 2 pills, the bitter taste familiar now after 6 months. Alex glanced over, saw what he was doing, said nothing. Smart girl. The forest was waking up, birds beginning to call, insects buzzing, the natural sounds returning after the violence of the night, life reasserting itself, indifferent to human war. Morrison checked his rifle, cleaned mud from the action, verified the scope alignment, loaded a fresh magazine, 19 rounds remaining. He'd used one during the ambush, fired blind into the darkness. Doubt he'd hit anything. 19 rounds, 40 enemy soldiers. The math was simple. He would need to make every shot count. And even then, the numbers were impossible, unless he changed the equation. Morrison pulled out his tactical notepad, waterproof paper, pencil stub. He began sketching. The ambush site, the direction of enemy fire, the radio chatter patterns, building a picture of Wade's operation. Professional soldiers, U.S. military equipment, Coordinated tactics. This wasn't some militia group playing war in the woods. This was a trained force, well-funded, well-led. Wade had built himself a private army. The question was why? Revenge against Morrison or something bigger? Morrison thought about the mission brief. Stolen military supplies, encrypted communications, training facility. Wade was preparing for something, some operation that required 40 men and enough firepower to fight a small war. But what? Alex moved closer, crouched beside Morrison, studied his notes. Analyzing the enemy? She asked quietly, trying to understand Wade's endgame. This is more than just killing me. He's invested too much, risked too much. Maybe killing you is just the beginning. Morrison looked at her. What do you mean? You're a symbol, sir, the legendary ghost. If he can kill you, prove you're mortal, it sends a message to other SEALs, to the government, that even legends can fall. Morrison considered this. Alex was right. Wade wasn't just after personal revenge. He was after Morrison's legacy. Everything Ghost represented. Smart, Morrison said. You think tactically. I trained you well. You trained me to survive. Now let me help you do the same. Morrison closed the notepad, looked at the young woman beside him. 28 years old, her whole career ahead of her. She should be miles away. Safe, moving toward extraction with Chen and Foster. Instead, she was here, in the kill zone, because he'd made it in order. Alex, Morrison said, I need to tell you something. Sir, if this goes bad, if I don't make it, I need you to promise me something. Colonel, we're both getting out. Promise me, Morrison insisted. My daughter, Sarah. She's deployed in Syria, Army Ranger. If something happens to me, tell her. Tell her I was thinking about her mother. Tell her I'm sorry I wasn't a better father. Tell her the mission was always about keeping her safe. Alex's jaw tightened. Sir, with respect, you can tell her yourself. Can I? Morrison held up his hands. Even with the medication, a slight tremor remained. How long before these hands can't pull a trigger? Before I become a liability instead of an asset? Then I'll pull the trigger for you. That's what spotters do. Morrison smiled despite himself. When did you get so stubborn? You taught me that too, sir. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Morrison stood. His shoulder protested. He ignored it. Pain was just weakness leaving the body. Or so the instructors had told him 30 years ago during Bud's training. He wondered if they'd known they were lying. We move in 10 minutes, Morrison said. We're going hunting. What's the plan? Morrison pointed to his sketch. Wade expects us to run, to try linking up with Chen and Foster. Instead, we circle back, get ahead of his search pattern, pick off his people one by one. Psychological warfare. Exactly. Make them afraid, make them see ghosts, break their morale before we break their lines. Alex nodded, started checking her gear. Morrison watched her, efficient, professional, ready. He remembered training her 5 years ago, fresh out of SEAL qualification training. Eager, talented, but angry. She'd shot like she had something to prove. Fast, aggressive, sloppy. Morrison had spent months teaching her patience. Control, the art of making time slow down when you looked through a scope. Now she was better than him. Or she would be, once his hands gave out completely. They moved at 0630. Morrison led, Alex followed. They used the techniques Morrison had perfected over 30 years. Ghost breathing to control heart rate. Slow movement. Using terrain and vegetation for concealment. Becoming part of the forest. Morrison's shoulder ached with every step, but the movement loosened it, warmed the muscles, made it bearable. They traveled parallel to the enemy search pattern, staying 200 meters ahead, always listening to the radio chatter on Alex's damaged receiver. Wade's people were thorough, professional, but predictable. Morrison smiled. Predictability was a fatal flaw in warfare. At Ruo 800, they found their first target, a two-man patrol, moving along a ridgeline, scanning the valley below, looking for Morrison and Alex in all the wrong places. Morrison and Alex set up on high ground, 400 meters out, perfect range for the M110. Morrison settled into position, checked wind, calculated drop. His breathing slowed, heart rate dropped. The world compressed to the small circle of light in his scope. The first soldier stopped, lit a cigarette. Rookie mistake. The flash of the lighter gave Morrison his aiming point. Morrison's finger found the trigger, began the slow squeeze, smooth, steady. His hand tremored, just slightly, but enough the crosshairs drifted off target. Morrison released the trigger, breathed, tried again. Another tremor. Damn it. Alex was beside him, watching. She didn't say anything, didn't have to. They both knew what was happening. Morrison's body was failing at the worst possible moment. "Alex," Morrison whispered, "you take it." "Sir, you can make this shot." "I can't. Not reliably. You can. Take it." Alex hesitated. Then she positioned herself, acquired the target. Her breathing was perfect. Her hands perfectly still, youth and health and confidence. Morrison watched her, saw himself 20 years ago. Before the Parkinson's, before the doubt. Alex fired. The suppressor reduced the sound to a sharp cough. 400 meters away, the soldier with the cigarette collapsed. His partner spun around, confused, didn't know where the shot came from. Alex cycled the bolt, fired again. The second soldier dropped. 2 shots, 2 kills. Clean, professional. "Good shooting," Morrison said. "You taught me. I taught you the basics. That was all you." They relocated immediately. Standard sniper protocol. Never fire more than twice from the same position. Morrison led them 300 meters west. Different angle, different line of sight. As they moved, Morrison thought about what had just happened. He'd missed. Or rather, he couldn't trust himself to shoot. His hands had betrayed him when it mattered most. How many more times before Alex noticed? Before she lost confidence in him? Before his team realized Ghost was broken? They found another position, overlooking an enemy checkpoint. 4 soldiers, standing around a tactical map, planning their search pattern. Morrison observed through his scope, identified the leader, Sergeant Stripes, older than the others, more experienced. He'd be the one giving orders. "Mark the sergeant," Morrison said. "Marked," Alex confirmed. She had her rifle trained on the same target. "On my count, 3, 2, 1. They fired simultaneously. Morrison's shot went wide by 3 inches, clipped the sergeant's shoulder instead of his chest. The man spun, fell, alive but wounded. Alex's shot was perfect, center mass. The soldier beside the sergeant dropped dead. The remaining 2 soldiers scattered, grabbed their rifles, started firing blind into the forest, full automatic bursts that chewed up trees and accomplished nothing. Morrison and Alex were already moving, relocating before the enemy could coordinate a response. As they moved, Morrison heard radio chatter, frantic, confused. "Contact! 2 shooters, grid reference 7834. Negative, we're at 7834, no contact." "Where are they shooting from?" Morrison smiled grimly. They were starting to see ghosts. By noon, Morrison and Alex had eliminated 8 enemy soldiers. Every kill created maximum confusion. Sometimes Morrison made the shot, sometimes Alex, sometimes they fired together, made it impossible for the enemy to determine how many shooters they faced. The radio traffic reflected the growing panic. Team 5 is gone, all 4 men. Team 7 reports contact, sniper fire from the north. Negative, Team 9 has contact from the west. How many shooters do we have? Nobody knew, that was the point. Morrison and Alex rested in a dense thicket, hidden, secure. Morrison's shoulder was worse now, swollen, hot to the touch, probably infected. He'd need antibiotics soon, or it would go septic. But antibiotics were back at base, miles away, in another lifetime. Alex offered him water. Morrison drank. The cold liquid tasted like mercy. "Sir," Alex said, "we need to talk about your shooting." "What about it?" "You're missing shots you'd normally make in your sleep. Your hands, the tremors, they're getting worse." Morrison looked at his hands. Even now, resting, they shook visibly. The medication was wearing off. He had 1 dose left, maybe 6 hours of semi-steady hands. "I know," Morrison said. "Then let me take the primary shots. You spot, call wind, range, be my eyes. I'm the instructor. You're the student." "No, sir. Right now, I'm the operator with steady hands. And you're the operator with 30 years of experience who can read terrain and enemy patterns better than anyone alive. We use our strengths, cover our weaknesses. That's how teams work." Morrison studied her. When had she become so wise? When had the student surpassed the teacher? "Okay," Morrison said. "You shoot, I'll guide." Alex nodded. No triumph in her expression. No pity, just acceptance of tactical reality. This was what Morrison had trained her for, to make hard decisions, to adapt, to survive. He just never imagined the hard decision would be admitting he couldn't do the job anymore. They moved again at 1400. Morrison navigated by compass and memory. The forest was his element. He'd trained in environments like this for 3 decades. Vietnam jungles, Afghan mountains, Iraqi deserts. The terrain changed, but the principles remained the same. Stay low, move slow, let the enemy make mistakes. At 1500, they intercepted a radio transmission that made Morrison's blood run cold. James Chen's voice, strained, breathing hard. Foster, run! Get to the rally point. I'll hold them. Captain, I can't leave you. That's an order, petty officer. Run! Gunfire, sustained, multiple weapons. Then Chen's voice again. Calmer now. Resigned. Ghost, if you're listening. I see you on the other side, brother. Tell my family. Tell them it was worth it. More gunfire. Then a different voice. Cold. Controlled. Cease fire. The target is down. Silence. Morrison sat down. Didn't mean to. His legs just gave out. He sat in the dirt and leaves, and 30 years of friendship ended in a radio transmission. James Chen, best friend, the man who'd been beside him through every deployment, every loss, every victory, the man who'd held Morrison when his wife died, who'd told him it was okay to cry. That strength wasn't about never breaking. James Chen was dead. Alex knelt beside Morrison, her hand on his shoulder, steady, anchoring him. Sir, I'm sorry. Morrison couldn't speak. If he spoke, he would scream, or cry, or both, and he couldn't afford either. Not here, not now. He thought about Chen's wife, Maria, their 2 daughters, teenagers now. They'd grow up without their father. Join the long line of military families who paid the price for freedom. Morrison had promised Maria once, years ago, promised he'd keep James safe, bring him home. He'd failed. Another promise broken, another friend dead, another ghost to carry. Morrison stood. His face was stone. His eyes were ice. We find Wade, Morrison said. His voice was flat, empty, and we end this. Alex nodded. She understood. This wasn't about the mission anymore. This was about blood debt, about accounts that needed settling. They moved with new purpose. Morrison led them deeper into the forest, toward the coordinates where Chen had died, toward the heart of Wade's operation. The enemy had consolidated, pulled back their scattered forces. Too many operators had vanished. Too much confusion. Wade was adapting, concentrating his strength. Smart, but it also meant Morrison could track them, follow the concentrated radio traffic to its source. At 1700, they found it. Enemy base camp. A clearing surrounded by dense forest. 12 tents, 2 vehicles, heavy weapons mounted, communication equipment, 40 soldiers visible, all armed, all alert. Morrison and Alex observed from 400 meters out, hidden in underbrush. Morrison studied the layout through his scope, memorized every detail. Guard rotations, fields of fire, dead zones, weakness. And then he saw him, center of the camp, standing beside a command tent. Gray hair, 62 years old, still fit, still dangerous. Colonel Thomas Wade, retired, dishonored, reaper. Morrison's oldest friend, his greatest failure. Through the scope, Morrison could see Wade's face clearly. The years had carved lines deep. Hardened features that used to smile. Eyes that used to be warm, now cold as winter stones. They'd been brothers once. Best friends. Morrison and Wade had gone through buds together. Served in desert storms side by side. Saved each other's lives more times than either could count. Then 91, that classified operation in Kuwait. Wade had been offered money, a lot of money, for information about U.S. troop movements. Enemy forces willing to pay for intelligence that could kill Americans. Morrison had caught Wade in the act, sending encrypted messages, selling out their brothers for cash. The confrontation had been brief. Wade didn't deny it, just smiled and said, "You'd do the same if your family needed it." But Morrison wouldn't, couldn't. Honor meant something, duty meant something. The lives of the men beside you meant more than money. Morrison had reported Wade, turned in his best friend. Wade was arrested, court-martial scheduled. But Wade escaped custody, disappeared, became Reaper, a mercenary, a gun for hire, everything a SEAL shouldn't be. Morrison had carried the guilt for 33 years, wondered if he'd made the right choice, wondered if friendship should have outweighed duty. Now looking through his scope at Wade's face, Morrison had his answer. He'd made the right choice, but it had cost him everything. Alex whispered, "That's Wade?" "Yes. He looks old. We all do." Morrison watched Wade move through the camp, giving orders, checking equipment, professional, efficient, the soldier he'd always been, just wearing different colors now. Wade stopped, looked toward the forest. Almost like he could feel Morrison watching him. For a long moment, Wade stared in their direction. Then he smiled. Morrison's finger found his trigger. 400 meters, clean shot. He could end this right now. But his hands shook, and the camp was full of soldiers who'd returned fire. And Morrison needed to know why. Why Wade had done all this. Why the revenge? Why now after 33 years? Morrison released the trigger. Not yet, he said. They observed for 2 more hours, learning patterns, counting soldiers, identifying leaders. Morrison made notes, sketched the camp layout, professional reconnaissance. This was what they'd come here to do. Then at 1900, everything changed. A patrol returned to camp, 4 soldiers, and between them, hands bound, was Rachel Foster. Morrison's heart sank. Foster, 26 years old, the medic, the youngest member of the team. She was alive but clearly injured, blood on her face, limping. The soldiers brought her to Wade. He studied her for a moment. Then he grabbed her chin, forced her to look at him. Wade's voice carried across the clearing. "Where is Morrison?" Foster spat at him. Wade backhanded her. Foster fell, struggled back to her feet, defiant even in captivity. Morrison's hands clenched. He wanted to shoot Wade, wanted to charge the camp, save Foster. But 40 armed soldiers stood between him and her. Suicide. Alex was thinking the same thing. "Sir, we can't get to her, not without a platoon." "I know." Wade pulled out a radio, keyed the transmit button, changed frequency, then spoke. "Ghost, I know you're listening. I have your medic, young, early career, whole life ahead of her. You know the deal. You for her. Grid point Charlie 5. Dawn tomorrow. Come alone or I start sending pieces." Static. Then Wade continued. 33 years, Jack. 33 years you've been free while I lived in exile. Hunted, hated, all because you couldn't let one mistake slide. Well, time's up. Tomorrow you pay your debt. Wade released the button, looked toward the forest again. That same knowing smile. Morrison sat back, mind racing. It was a trap, obviously a trap. Wade wanted Morrison to come. Wade had orchestrated this entire mission to create this exact scenario. But Foster was alive. Morrison's responsibility, his team member. Alex looked at him. "Sir, what are we going to do?" Morrison thought about Chen, lying dead somewhere in these woods. About Webb and Santos killed in the ambush. About Foster bound and bleeding in enemy hands. 4 operators under his command, 3 dead or dying, 1 captive. Worst mission performance of his career. And it was all because of choices Morrison had made 33 years ago. Because he'd chosen duty over friendship. Because he destroyed Wade's life to save the lives of people Wade didn't know. Had it been worth it? Morrison looked at his hands, shaking, useless. The body that had served him for 58 years finally giving up. Maybe Wade was right. Maybe it was time to pay the debt. "We're going in," Morrison said. "Sir, that's suicide." "Probably. Then we need a better plan." Morrison pulled out his notepad, started sketching. "Wade expects me to come more angry, reckless, the old ghost who'd charge in guns blazing. But I'm not that man anymore." "What are you?" "I'm a man who's run out of time, who has nothing left to lose, and who's spent 30 years learning how to disappear." Morrison drew the camp layout, marked guard positions, fields of fire, approach routes. "Wade knows my tactics, so we use his knowledge against him. We give him what he expects, but not when he expects it." "I don't understand." "Dawn tomorrow. That's when he wants me. That's when he'll be ready. Maximum security, all his people alert. So we go tonight, in the dark. Before he's ready, we become ghosts one more time." Alex studied the sketch. "How do we get Foster out? There's 40 of them. We don't fight 40, we fight smart, create diversion, confusion, get Foster and disappear before they can respond." "And if it doesn't work?" Morrison met her eyes. "Then you get Foster out and leave me behind." "Sir, no. That's an order, Lieutenant. If I fall, you extract Foster. You link up with whatever QRF Colonel Rhodes sends. You tell them everything. About Wade, about the operation, about the mole who leaked our mission. You're talking like you're already dead." "Maybe I am. Maybe I died back in that ambush with Webb and Santos. Maybe I'm just a ghost who hasn't figured it out yet." Alex grabbed Morrison's arm, forced him to look at her. "Listen to me, Colonel. You are not dead. You are not a ghost. You are Jack Morrison. You are my instructor, my mentor, the man who taught me everything. And I am not leaving you behind. We're both getting out, or neither of us is. Understood?" Morrison stared at her. Saw the steel in her eyes, the determination, the loyalty. He'd taught her too well. Understood, Morrison said quietly. They spent the next 3 hours planning. Morrison drew detailed maps, marked approach routes, identified where Foster was being held, calculated timing, drew backup plans and contingencies. Professional, methodical. This was what 30 years of experience looked like. The ability to turn impossible missions into merely suicidal ones. At 2100, Morrison wrote a letter. Last letter. The one soldiers write before missions they don't expect to survive. Sarah, this is it, the last one. If you're reading this, I'm gone for real this time. I want you to know I'm proud of you, Army Ranger, following in the family tradition. Your mother would be proud too. I thought about her every day, every mission. She was my North Star, the reason I kept going when everything else said quit. I hope you find someone like that, someone who makes you better, someone worth coming home to. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you. Sorry I chose the job over being a dad. I thought I was making the world safer for you. Maybe I was. Maybe I was just running from things I didn't know how to handle. Either way, I'm out of time now. I'm going to do one last thing, save one last life. And then I'm done. I'll see your mother. Tell her I finished the mission. I kept the promise. I made it count. I love you, Sarah. I'm sorry I didn't say it enough. I'm sorry I didn't show you how. But I do, more than anything. Your father, Jack. Morrison folded the letter, sealed it, wrote Sarah's name on the outside, put it in his vest pocket. If he didn't make it out, someone would find it. Chen would have found it, but Chen was dead. Alex would find it. Alex would make sure it reached Sarah. At 2200, Morrison took his last dose of Parkinson's medication. The pills rattled in the empty bottle. He dry swallowed them, felt them stick in his throat, choked them down. 6 hours. Maybe 8 if he was lucky. Then his hands would shake so bad he couldn't hold a weapon. 6 hours to save Foster, kill Wade, and survive. Simple. Morrison checked his rifle one final time. 17 rounds remaining. He'd used 2 more during the afternoon hunt. 17 chances to change history, to end the mission, to pay the debt he'd carried for 33 years. Alex checked her rifle. Full magazine, 20 rounds. She was better supplied, younger, steadier. She'd make it out even if Morrison didn't. That was something. You ready? Morrison asked. No, sir, but I'm going anyway. Morrison smiled. That's the spirit. They moved at 22:30. Full dark, new moon, perfect conditions for ghost work. Morrison led, Alex followed. They circled the enemy camp, approached from the north. The blind side. The direction Wade wouldn't expect because it required crossing a stream swollen with runoff. The water was cold, shockingly cold. Mountain runoff from snowmelt. Morrison waded in, felt the current pulling at his legs, strong enough to sweep a man away. Morrison used a fallen log as a bridge, balanced carefully. His shoulder screamed. He ignored it, crossed, made it to the far bank. Alex followed. Lighter, more agile. She crossed easily. They were inside Wade's perimeter now, the point of no return. Morrison checked his compass. Oriented. The camp was 300 meters ahead. Foster was being held in the supply tent, eastern edge of the camp, 2 guards. Morrison and Alex moved through the darkness, silent, invisible. Ghosts in truth now. They could hear the camp, voices, generator humming, radio chatter, normal sounds of soldiers preparing for tomorrow's trap. They had no idea the trap was springing tonight. Morrison and Alex reached the camp perimeter. 50 meters out, they could see campfires, soldiers moving between tents, guard posts. Morrison spotted Foster, still bound, sitting against a tent pole, 2 guards nearby, alert but not paranoid. They thought Morrison would come at dawn. They had hours to wait. Morrison signaled Alex, "You circle left, I'll go right. On my mark, we take the guards." Silent, then extract Foster. Alex nodded. They separated, moving through shadows. Morrison's heart hammered. His hands shook, not just from Parkinson's now, from adrenaline, from fear, from knowing this was likely his last mission. 58 years old, 30 years of service. It all came down to this: one medic, one enemy, one last chance to do the right thing. Morrison reached his position, 20 meters from the first guard. He could see the man clearly. Young, maybe 25, just doing his job. Didn't deserve to die. But Foster didn't deserve to die either. Choices, and someone always paid. Morrison drew his knife, the blade he'd carried for 15 years, used it in a dozen countries, against men who were trying to kill him or kill people he was protecting. The blade was cold, the edge was sharp. Morrison waited, watched the guard's pattern, timed it, then moved. Fast for an old man, silent as death. The knife found the guard's throat before the man could scream. Morrison caught him, lowered him quietly, closed the dead eyes. 26 years old according to the dog tags, someone's son, maybe someone's father. Morrison felt nothing, couldn't afford to feel. Feeling was for after, if there was an after. Across the tent, Alex took the second guard. Clean, professional, ghost student. Morrison cut Foster's bonds. She gasped, started to speak. Morrison clamped a hand over her mouth, shook his head. Silence. Foster nodded, understanding. Morrison helped her stand. She was weak, injured, but mobile. They started moving, back the way they'd come, through the shadows, toward the perimeter. Then the camp alarm sounded. Someone had found the bodies. Someone was screaming. Lights blazed on. Soldiers grabbed weapons. The camp erupted into chaos. Morrison grabbed Foster, started running, Alex beside them, covering their retreat. Firing controlled bursts into the air. Not trying to kill, just creating confusion, making the enemy take cover. They made it to the perimeter, to the trees, into darkness. Behind them, Wade's voice on the loudspeaker. Cold, controlled. "Ghost, I know you're here. Stop running and face me." Morrison didn't stop, kept moving. Foster between him and Alex, running through the forest, branches tearing at their faces, roots trying to trip them. They'd made it 200 meters when Morrison heard it, the distinctive thump of a grenade launcher. "Down!" Morrison screamed. They dove. The grenade impacted behind them. Explosion, shrapnel tearing through trees. Morrison felt something punch his leg. Hot pain. He ignored it. "Move!" Morrison shouted. "Keep moving!" They ran. The forest erupted with gunfire, muzzle flashes in the darkness. Tracer rounds cutting through the night like angry stars. Morrison's leg was bleeding. He could feel it. Warm blood running down into his boot. But he kept running. Had to keep running. Foster stumbled. Alex caught her, kept her moving. Behind them, voices. Orders. Wade's people were in pursuit. Professional. Organized. Not panicked like Morrison had hoped. Morrison found a defensive position. Small ravine. Good cover. "Here," he shouted. "Set up here." They dropped into the ravine. Morrison positioned Foster behind a fallen log. Alex took up firing position. Morrison beside her. His hands were shaking badly now, the adrenaline and injury overriding the medication. He could barely hold his rifle. Enemy soldiers appeared, advancing through the trees. Morrison fired. Wide. Missed. Fired again. Hit a tree. Alex's rifle spoke. Controlled. Precise. One soldier dropped. Another. Third took cover. But there were too many. Dozens of them, all converging. Morrison realized with cold clarity they weren't going to make it. Not all three of them. The numbers were impossible. Someone had to stay behind. Buy time for the others to escape. Morrison looked at Alex, at Foster. Both young, both with careers ahead of them. Lives to live, families to start. Morrison was 58, dying of Parkinson's. Weeks from retirement. He'd lived his life, made his choices, carried his ghost. Time to add one more. "Alex," Morrison said, "take Foster, get to the extraction point." "Sir, no. That's an order. I'm not leaving you. You have to. Someone has to buy time. That someone is me." "Then I'll stay. You take Foster." Morrison grabbed Alex's shoulders, looked into her eyes, gray eyes that reminded him of storm clouds. "Listen to me. You are the best operator I've ever trained. You are Ghost now. The real Ghost. Not some legend, but the genuine article. You will survive this. You will go on. You will teach the next generation. That's your mission now. Understood?" Tears in Alex's eyes. "Sir, please. I'm proud of you, Lieutenant. Prouder than I ever was of my own work. You are my legacy. Now go, while there's still time." Morrison pushed her toward Foster. "That's a direct order. Extract the asset. Return to base. Report to Colonel Rhodes. Tell her everything." Alex looked at him. One last look. Then she nodded, grabbed Foster. They disappeared into the darkness. Morrison was alone. He checked his rifle. 11 rounds remaining. 11 chances. The enemy was close now. He could hear them moving, see their tactical lights cutting through the trees. Morrison took a breath. Ghost breathing. 4 counts in, 7 hold, 8 out. His hand steadied. One last time. The medication and adrenaline and 30 years of training combining into one final moment of clarity. Morrison raised his rifle, acquired targets, started firing. One shot, enemy soldier down. Two shots, another fell. Three, four, five. He was ghost. One more time, one last time. The enemy took cover, started returning fire. Bullets snapped past Morrison's head, impacted around him, kicked up dirt and wood splinters. Morrison kept firing. 6, 7, 8, 9. 2 rounds left. Then Wade's voice. Close. Too close. Jack, give it up. You're surrounded. You're hurt. You're done. Morrison didn't answer, conserved his breath, watched for movement. I know about the Parkinson's, Wade said. I have contacts everywhere. Medical records. I know you're dying, so why not end it now, on your terms? Morrison still said nothing. We were brothers, Jack. Best friends. And you destroyed me. For what? For duty? For honor? Those are just words. They don't keep you warm at night. Don't give you purpose when everything else is gone. Morrison's hands shook. Not from disease now. From rage. From 33 years of carrying the weight of doing the right thing even when it cost everything. You want to know something, Tommy? Morrison called out. I don't regret turning you in. Not for 1 second. Because honor isn't just words. It's the only thing that separates us from animals. It's what makes sacrifice meaningful. It's what lets me sleep at night, knowing I did the right thing, even when it hurt. Silence. Then Wade laughed. Bitter. Cold. You always were self-righteous, Jack. Always thought you were better than everyone else. Well, look where it got you. Bleeding in a ditch. Alone. About to die. I'm not alone, Morrison said. I'm with my brothers. Webb, Santos, Chen. All the good people who died because you couldn't let go of a grudge. They died because you couldn't let go of duty. No, they died because you sold them out. 33 years ago, and again 3 days ago when you leaked our mission. You killed them, Tommy, not me, you. Movement. Wade stepping out from behind cover, rifle raised, 40 feet away. Morrison and Wade stared at each other. Old friends, old enemies. 2 warriors at the end of a very long road. One last question, Wade said. Was it worth it? All of it? The sacrifice, the pain, the loneliness. Was it worth it? Morrison thought about his wife, his daughter, his brothers in arms, the lives he'd saved, the missions he'd completed, the legacy he was leaving behind in Alex. Yes, Morrison said, it was worth it. Wade smiled, sad, resigned. Then die knowing you were wrong. Wade raised his rifle. Morrison raised his. 2 shots rang out simultaneously. One went wide, Morrison's. His hands shook at the last second. The bullet sparked off a tree 6 inches from Wade's head. The other shot was perfect. Wade's center mass through Morrison's chest. Morrison fell, felt himself hit the ground. Strange how it didn't hurt, just pressure, like someone sitting on his chest. He tried to breathe, couldn't. Tried to move, couldn't. Wade stood over him, rifle pointed down. 33 years, Wade said. I've waited 33 years for this moment. And you know what's funny? I don't feel anything. No satisfaction, no relief, just empty. Morrison tried to speak, blood in his mouth, copper taste. Wade lowered his rifle, knelt beside Morrison. I'm not going to let you die alone, Jack. That would be dishonorable. And despite everything, we were brothers once, so I'll stay until the end. Morrison's vision was fading, going gray at the edges, but he could still see Wade's face. Sad, tired, old. They were both old men now, both tired, both at the end. Morrison's lips moved, whispered. Wade leaned closer to hear. Alex, Morrison breathed, she's coming for you. Wade's eyes widened. What? Didn't teach her to run, taught her to hunt. Wade spun around, too late. Alex's rifle spoke once, from 300 meters out. Darkness, impossible shot. The bullet took Wade through the temple. He dropped beside Morrison, dead before he hit the ground. Morrison smiled, blood on his teeth. Ghost's last lesson, the one he'd never taught in any classroom. Sometimes you sacrificed yourself not to die, but to buy time for the real hunter. Morrison's vision faded. Sound became distant. He was aware of voices, Alex screaming his name, Foster crying, soldiers running. But it all seemed far away, unimportant. Morrison thought about his wife. Karen, blonde hair, blue eyes, smile that could stop his heart. I'm coming, Morrison whispered. Mission complete. Then Colonel Jack Morrison, United States Navy SEAL, call sign Ghost, closed his eyes and let the darkness take him. Darkness. Not the darkness of night or closed eyes. Something deeper, colder. The darkness that comes before nothing. Colonel Jack Morrison floated in it, aware but not present, conscious but not alive. Some gray space between breathing and not breathing. He could hear voices, distant, like listening underwater. Alex, screaming his name, begging him to stay. Foster, crying, praying. Helicopter rotors, medical equipment, hands on his chest, pressure, pain that seemed to come from another universe. Someone saying, "We're losing him." Morrison wanted to tell them it was okay, that he'd made his choice, that this was how it was supposed to end, but his mouth wouldn't work. His body was done taking orders. He thought about Karen, his wife, dead 5 years now. He'd be with her soon, tell her about their daughter, about the missions, about how he'd tried his best even when his best wasn't enough. The voices faded, the pain faded, everything faded except one thought. I finished the mission. Then even that was gone. Lieutenant Alex Kane sat in the hospital waiting room at Naval Medical Center, San Diego. She'd been there for 18 hours, still wearing her combat gear, still covered in Morrison's blood. Colonel Karen Rhodes sat beside her, silent, waiting. Rachel Foster was in surgery 2 floors up. Stable. She'd live. Broken ribs, concussion, but alive. Morrison was in ICU, critical condition. The bullet had collapsed his lung, nicked his heart, caused massive internal bleeding. The medics on the extraction helicopter had kept him alive through sheer will and skill, but the doctors weren't optimistic. He's 58, the surgeon had said. His body has been through trauma. The Parkinson's complicates everything. Even if he survives the surgery, the recovery, the surgeon hadn't finished, didn't need to. Alex stared at her hands. They were steady, hadn't shaken once during the entire mission. She'd made every shot Morrison couldn't, been his eyes, his trigger finger, his legacy. And she'd killed Thomas Wade with a shot Morrison would have been proud of. But it didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss. Rhodes spoke quietly. You did everything right, Lieutenant. You saved Foster, completed the mission, neutralized the target. I should have stayed with him. Should have fought beside him instead of running. He ordered you to extract. You followed orders. He ordered me because he knew he was dying, because he wanted to save us. Rhodes was silent for a moment. Then she said, that's what leaders do. They make the hard choices so their people don't have to. Alex looked at Rhodes. Did you know about the Parkinson's? I suspected. His hands shook during briefings, but he never reported it, never asked for accommodation, just kept doing the job. Because he was Ghost. Because he was Jack Morrison, a man who didn't know how to quit even when his body told him to. A doctor appeared in the doorway, surgical scrubs, tired eyes. He looked at Rhodes and Alex. Colonel Morrison is out of surgery, the doctor said. Alex stood. Is he? He's alive, barely. The next 48 hours are critical. If he survives that, he might have a chance. But I need you to understand, even if he lives, he'll never be the same. The damage to his heart, the Parkinson's, the trauma. He's looking at months of recovery, maybe years, and he may never regain full function. Rhodes nodded. Can we see him? Family only. ICU rules. I'm his family, Alex said. Her voice was steel. I'm his student, his team, his legacy. That makes me family. The doctor studied her, saw something in her eyes, the kind of bond that went deeper than blood, the kind forged in fire and fear and shared survival. 5 minutes, the doctor said, no more. Alex followed him to ICU. The room was filled with machines, monitors beeping, IVs dripping, tubes and wires connecting Morrison to life support. Morrison lay in the bed, pale, still, so still. Alex had never seen him still. He'd always been in motion, teaching, training, leading. Even when his hands shook, the rest of him never stopped. Now he looked small, fragile, human. Alex approached the bed, took Morrison's hand. It was cold. The tremor was still there, faint but present. Even in a coma, his body betrayed him. Sir, Alex whispered, it's me. Alex, we made it out. Foster is safe. Wade is dead. You did it. You finished the mission. No response. Just the steady beep of the heart monitor. You told me I was your legacy, that I was Ghost now. But I don't know how to be that without you. I don't know how to teach what you taught me, how to carry what you carried. Alex's voice broke. She'd held it together for 18 hours, through the firefight, the extraction, the debriefing. But here, alone with the man who'd taught her everything, she finally broke. "You can't die, sir. You can't leave me with this. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough yet." Morrison's hand twitched. Just barely. Maybe a reflex. Maybe something else. The 5 minutes ended. A nurse came, told Alex she had to leave. Alex squeezed Morrison's hand one more time. "I'll be back, Colonel. You fight. You hear me? You fight like you taught me to fight. Don't you dare quit." Alex left, but she didn't go far. She sat in the waiting room, refused to change clothes, refused to eat, just waited. Rhodes brought her coffee. Alex drank it without tasting it. "There's a debriefing scheduled," Rhodes had said. "Whenever you're ready, we need your report, everything that happened. Not until I know if he's going to make it." Rhodes nodded, understood. Some things were more important than procedure. Hours passed. Day became night. Alex dozed in the chair. Woke when the automatic doors opened. Dozed again. At 0300, the doctor returned. His expression was unreadable. Alex stood, heart pounding. "Lieutenant Kane," the doctor said. "Colonel Morrison is awake. He's asking for you." Alex ran, didn't wait for permission, ran to ICU, burst through the doors. Morrison was sitting up slightly, oxygen mask over his face. Eyes open. Alive. "Sir," Alex breathed. Morrison pulled the oxygen mask aside, spoke. His voice was weak, rough, but his. "Report, Lieutenant." Alex almost laughed, almost cried. He was lecturing her from a hospital bed. "Mission complete, sir. Foster extracted, enemy neutralized, 0 friendly casualties." "Liar," Morrison whispered. "I saw Chen die, Webb, Santos." "I meant 0 additional casualties, sir." Morrison's eyes found hers, gray eyes that had seen too much, carried too much, but still sharp, still aware. "Wade." "Dead, sir. I made the shot. 300 meters. Darkness, just like you taught me." Morrison smiled, barely. "Good shooting." "You taught me." "No, that was all you. I just gave you the tools. You built the skill." Morrison coughed, winced, pain evident even through the medication. "Sir, you need to rest." "I've got time to rest. Listen, my daughter, Sarah, she's deployed, Syria. When she rotates back, you tell her. You tell her what happened, that I thought about her mother, that I'm sorry." "Sir, you can tell her yourself." Morrison shook his head, weak but certain. "I'm dying, Alex. Not today. Maybe not this week. But the bullet, the Parkinson's, my body is done. I'm on borrowed time." "Then borrow as much as you need." Morrison reached for her hand, held it. His grip was weak, but present. "Promise me something." "Anything, sir." "Keep teaching. Pass it on. Everything I taught you, don't let it die with me. The ghost breathing, the patience, the understanding that shooting is only 10% of the job. The other 90 is being able to live with what you've done. Teach them that. I promise. And Alex, take care of Foster. She's young. She saw things no one should see. She'll need someone who understands. Be that someone." "I will." Morrison closed his eyes, exhausted. "Good. Now get out of here. Go shower, eat, sleep. That's an order." "Sir?" "Go. I'm not going anywhere. Not yet." Alex left, but she looked back. Morrison was already asleep. The machines breathing for him, keeping him alive through technology and determination. Alex went to her quarters, showered for the first time in 3 days, watched Morrison's blood run down the drain, changed into clean clothes, ate something, tasted nothing. Then she collapsed on her bunk and slept for 12 hours. When she woke, there was a message. "Report to Colonel Rhodes, 1400 hours." Alex dressed, put on her service uniform, ribbons and medals she'd earned over 8 years, the trident on her chest, the rank she'd worked for. She looked in the mirror, saw a stranger, someone who'd gone into the forest as a student and come out as something else, something harder, something carved from necessity and loss. Ghost. The debriefing lasted 4 hours. Alex told them everything. The ambush, the deaths, the hunt, Wade's camp, Morrison's sacrifice, the rescue, the final shootout. Rhodes listened, took notes, asked questions, professional, thorough. When Alex finished, Rhodes leaned back in her chair. "You understand what you did out there was extraordinary. 6 operators went in, 3 died, 1 critically wounded, but you and Morrison eliminated 40 enemy combatants, destroyed a domestic terror cell, neutralized a target who'd been operating for 33 years. It was Morrison, ma'am, not me. Morrison couldn't pull the trigger at the end. You could. Don't diminish your role, Lieutenant. Alex said nothing. Rhodes pulled out a folder. Thomas Wade, Colonel, retired dishonorably in 1991. We've been tracking him for decades. He's connected to 12 domestic terror organizations, 15 international incidents, over 200 confirmed kills. You didn't just stop a revenge plot, you stopped one of the most dangerous men in the mercenary world. He was Morrison's friend once. Yes, which makes Morrison's choice 33 years ago even more remarkable. He sacrificed his best friend to do the right thing, and he lived with that guilt his entire life. Rhodes closed the folder. The official story is this. SEAL team conducted successful counterterrorism operation. 4 KIA, including team leader Colonel Jack Morrison. Lieutenant Alex Kane assumed command. Completed mission. Extracted surviving team member. Enemy force neutralized. Morrison isn't dead. Not yet. But Alex, you saw him, you heard the doctors. He's not coming back. Not to active duty, not to training. His career is over. Alex felt something cold settle in her chest. She'd known. Of course she'd known. But hearing it made it real. What happens to him? Medical retirement, full honors, pension. He'll be taken care of. But his days as ghost are done. Alex nodded, couldn't speak. Rhodes stood, walked around the desk, put a hand on Alex's shoulder. He's proud of you. You know that. Everything he did, everything he sacrificed. It was so people like you could continue the mission. Could be better than he was. Could carry the legacy forward. I'm not ready. Nobody ever is, but you'll do it anyway, because that's what we do. Rhodes returned to her desk. Dismissed, Lieutenant. Take some leave. Rest. When you come back, we'll talk about your next assignment. Alex left, walked across the base. The San Diego sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red, blood colors. She thought about Morrison, about Webb, Santos, Chen. Good men who'd died in the forest, who'd given everything for a mission that wasn't supposed to cost so much. She thought about Wade, the villain, the traitor, but also the friend who'd been betrayed, who'd spent 33 years carrying his own weight. Everyone was carrying something. Everyone had ghosts. Alex went back to the hospital, sat with Morrison. He was asleep more than awake now. The machines doing most of the work, his body slowly shutting down despite the doctor's best efforts. Over the next week, Alex visited every day. Sometimes Morrison was lucid. They'd talk about missions, about technique, about life. Sometimes he was lost, thought Alex was his wife, called her Karen, held her hand and apologized for being gone so much. Alex never corrected him, let him have the peace. Rachel Foster was released from the hospital. She came to visit Morrison once, stood at his bedside, cried, told him thank you. Morrison didn't respond, didn't wake. Foster left. Alex knew she'd never come back. Some weights were too heavy to carry twice. 10 days after the mission, Morrison crashed. Heart attack, massive. The doctors worked for 30 minutes, brought him back. But he was weaker. The window was closing. Alex was there when he woke. His eyes found hers. How long? Morrison whispered. Don't talk like that, sir. How long, Lieutenant? That's an order. Alex's throat tightened. Doctors say days, maybe hours. Morrison nodded. Good, I'm tired. Sir? It's okay, Alex. I've had a good run. Longer than I deserved. Done things I'm proud of. Made mistakes I've paid for. Now I'm ready. I'm not ready to lose you. Morrison smiled. You won't lose me. I'll be right here. He tapped her chest, over her heart. In every shot you take, every student you teach, every mission you complete. That's not loss. That's legacy. What if I fail? Then you get up and try again. That's what I taught you. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Morrison coughed, blood on his lips. The machines beeped urgently. Nurses rushed in. Alex was pushed back. She watched them work on him. Watched the man who'd taught her everything struggle for one more breath. One more moment. One more lesson. The machines stabilized. Nurses left. Alex returned to his bedside. Morrison's eyes were closing, drifting, but he held her hand. Tell Sarah, he whispered. Tell her I loved her. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her. Her mother is waiting. I'll tell her, sir. I promise. Morrison's grip loosened. His breathing slowed. The machines gave one long tone. Nurses rushed in, doctor right behind. Alex was pushed out, stood in the hallway, watched through the window as they tried to bring him back. This time they couldn't. Colonel Jack Morrison, 58 years old, 30 years of service, 300 confirmed kills, legendary instructor, father, widower, ghost. Dead at 2,147 hours on a Tuesday. Alex stood in the hallway and felt something inside her break. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet cracking, like ice on a winter lake. She didn't cry. Couldn't. Ghost didn't cry. But Lieutenant Alex Kane did. Later. Alone in her quarters. She cried for the man who'd taught her to shoot, who'd seen something in her worth nurturing, who'd given everything so she could have a future. She cried for the father she'd never had, the mentor who'd become more, the legend who'd been human all along. Then she dried her eyes, stood up, got ready for the next mission, because that's what Morrison would have wanted. Arlington National Cemetery, 2 weeks later. The sky was gray, threatening rain, appropriate for a funeral. Alex stood in her dress uniform, white gloves, service ribbons, the trident gleaming on her chest. Beside her stood Rachel Foster, pale, thin, but present. Behind them, 300 Navy SEALs, past and present, men Morrison had trained, men he'd served with, men who owed him their lives or their careers or both. The casket was draped in an American flag, honor guard at each corner, rifles at attention. Colonel Karen Rhodes spoke. Eulogy. Professional. Respectful. She talked about Morrison's career, his service, his sacrifice. But she didn't really know him. Not like the operators did. Not like Alex did. When Rhodes finished, she looked at Alex, nodded. Alex stepped forward. She'd prepared remarks, written them out, practiced. She threw them away and spoke from the heart. Colonel Morrison taught me to shoot. But more than that, he taught me why. He taught me that every bullet carries a weight. Every mission has a kid, every choice echoes. He taught me that courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about doing the job despite the fear. He taught me that honor isn't outdated, it's eternal. He taught me that legacy isn't what we take from the world. It's what we give to the next generation. I'm standing here today because Colonel Morrison gave me everything he had. His knowledge, his time, his faith, and ultimately his life. He died so others could live. That's not tragedy. That's heroism in its purest form. We will remember him, we will honor him, and we will continue his mission. Because that's what he taught us, to keep moving forward, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Fair winds and following seas, Colonel. We have the watch from here. Alex stepped back, 7 rifles fired, 21 shots. The sound echoed across the cemetery. Taps played. The honor guard folded the flag, presented it to Rhodes. Rhodes walked to where a woman stood, 32 years old, Army Ranger uniform, dark hair, Morrison's eyes. Sarah Morrison. Rhodes presented the flag. On behalf of a grateful nation, Sarah took it, nodded, no tears. She was her father's daughter, strong, composed, carrying the weight without showing it. The ceremony ended, people dispersed. Alex started to leave. Lieutenant Kane, Alex turned. Sarah Morrison stood there, holding the flag, looking at Alex with eyes that saw too much. "You're the one," Sarah said, "the one my father wrote about, his last student." "Yes, ma'am. Can we talk somewhere private?" They walked to a quiet corner of the cemetery, sat on a bench under an oak tree. Sarah held the flag like it might disappear. "I didn't know," Sarah said, "about the Parkinson's. He never told me. Just kept deploying, kept teaching, kept being ghost. He didn't want you to worry." "That's stupid. I'm his daughter. Worrying is what I do." Sarah's voice broke slightly. "I should have been there. Should have visited more. Should have told him things." Alex reached into her pocket, pulled out an envelope. Morrison's letter, the one he'd written before the mission. "He wanted you to have this." Sarah took it, hands shaking. She opened it, read. Alex watched her read, saw the tears come, saw Sarah's face crumble, saw the daughter finally grieve for the father. When Sarah finished, she folded the letter carefully, looked at Alex. "He said he thought about my mother every day. Is that true?" "Yes, ma'am. He talked about her, about you, about how everything he did was to make the world safer, for you, so you could be free." Sarah nodded, wiped her eyes. "He was a good man, not a good father, but a good man. There's a difference." "There is. And you, he trained you, passed something on." "Yes, ma'am." Sarah stood, extended her hand. "Then I'm trusting you to carry it forward, to be what he was, to teach what he taught, to make sure his death meant something." Alex shook her hand. "I will, I promise." Sarah left, walked away carrying the flag and the letter and the weight of a father she'd barely known but would always love. Alex sat alone under the oak tree, thought about promises, about legacy, about the impossible weight of living up to what Morrison had been. Then she stood, squared her shoulders, started walking. Because sitting wouldn't honor him, mourning wouldn't honor him, moving forward would. 1 year later, Lieutenant Commander Alex Kane stood before 30 young faces in the sniper training facility at Naval Base Coronado. She wore her instructor uniform, the trident on her chest, the rank she'd earned, the call sign she'd inherited. Ghost, welcome to advanced sniper training, Alex said. Her voice carried the authority of someone who'd earned every word. My name is Lieutenant Commander Kane. For the next 12 weeks, I will teach you to shoot. But more importantly, I will teach you why you shoot. I will teach you that every bullet carries a weight. Every mission has a cost. Every choice echoes. Some of you will graduate. Some of you will quit. All of you will be different when this is over. Because what we do here isn't about killing. It's about protecting. It's about being the thin line between civilians who sleep peacefully and the people who want to hurt them. Are you ready? The student has nodded, eager, talented, not yet understanding what they were signing up for. Alex saw herself in them. 12 years ago, fresh, confident, thinking she knew everything. She also saw one face that made her pause. Front row, 20 years old, serious expression, name tape, Santos. After class, Alex called him forward. Petty Officer Santos, your father was David Santos? Yes, ma'am. He died in Olympic National Forest. Mission with Colonel Morrison. I know, I was there. Santos's eyes widened. You're the one who survived. Your father was a good man, expert communications, best I ever worked with. Ma'am, can you tell me what happened? They never gave my family details, just he died in service. Alex considered. Some truths were classified, some were too painful, but Santos deserves something. Your father died protecting his team. He was hit trying to call for help, trying to save lives. He died doing what he believed in. That matters. Santos nodded, eyes wet but controlled. Thank you, ma'am. He'd be proud of you, following in his footsteps. Ma'am, I'm not trying to follow. I'm trying to honor. Alex smiled. Good answer. Dismissed. Santos left. Alex watched him go. Another generation, another chance. Another link in the chain Morrison had forged. That afternoon, Alex taught her first class. Ghost breathing technique. 4 counts in, 7 hold, 8 out. This isn't about controlling fear, Alex said. Fear is natural. Fear keeps you alive. This is about functioning despite fear. About slowing your heart rate so your hands stay steady. About making time bend when you look through a scope. She demonstrated. The students tried. Most failed. A few got close. Santos nailed it on the 3rd attempt. Good kid. He'd make it. After class, Alex walked to her office. On the wall hung a photograph. Morrison in his prime, rifle in hand, that slight smile he got when he just made an impossible shot. Beneath it, a plaque. Colonel Jack Morrison, United States Navy SEAL, Ghost, 1967 to 2020. He taught us to hunt. Alex sat at her desk, opened her notebook, started planning tomorrow's lesson. She had 12 weeks to turn 30 students into operators. 12 weeks to pass on what Morrison had given her. 12 weeks to prove his death meant something. Her phone buzzed, a text from Colonel Rhodes. New mission brief, classified, your team, 0900 tomorrow. Alex typed back, understood. Some things never changed. The missions kept coming. The threats kept evolving. The need for people like Morrison, like Chen, like Webb and Santos, like all the ghosts who'd given everything. The need for people like Alex. She closed the notebook, stood, looked at Morrison's photograph one more time. I've got it from here, Colonel. You rest. I'll handle the next watch. The photograph didn't respond, but Alex felt something, a presence, a weight, not heavy, reassuring, like Morrison was standing beside her, checking her work, making sure she did it right. She would. She'd make sure every student understood. That shooting was 10%. Living with it was 90%. That honor mattered. That sacrifice meant something. That legacy was earned through teaching, not taking. She'd make sure they knew about the men who came before. Morrison, Chen, Webb, Santos, Foster. All the ghosts who haunted the halls and reminded every new operator that freedom wasn't free. Someone had to pay the price. Someone always did. Alex walked out of her office, across the base, The San Diego sun was setting. Same sky Morrison had watched. Same ocean. Same mission. Different warrior carrying it forward. Lieutenant Commander Alex Kane, United States Navy SEAL, call sign Ghost, 29 years old, 15 years of service ahead of her, hundreds of students to train, countless missions to complete. She thought about Morrison's last words. Tell Sarah I loved her. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her her mother is waiting. Alex had kept that promise, kept all her promises. Now she had new ones to make. To the students, to the mission, to the legacy. She stopped at the edge of the base, looked out at the ocean, the sun painting the water gold. Somewhere out there, enemies plotted. Threats emerged. People who needed stopping. And somewhere in classrooms and training grounds and forward operating bases, operators learned their craft, learned to shoot, learned to survive, learned to carry the weight. Because that's what Morrison had taught them. That's what Alex would teach the next generation. And what they'd teach the generation after. The chain unbroken, the mission eternal, the watch continuing. Alex turned away from the ocean, walked back toward her quarters. Tomorrow would come early. Training at 0600, mission brief at 0900, lessons to teach, students to push, legacy to honor. But tonight she rested, like Morrison had taught her. Rest when you can, because the mission never truly ends. In her quarters, Alex lay in her bunk, closed her eyes, began the ghost breathing, 4 counts in, 7 hold, 8 out. Her heartbeat slowed, her mind quieted, peace settled over her like Morrison's old ghillie suit, comfortable, familiar, earned. And in that peace, in that quiet moment between waking and sleeping, Alex heard Morrison's voice. Not a hallucination, not grief, just memory, strong and clear. You did good, Ghost. I'm proud of you. Alex smiled, whispered into the darkness. Thank you, Colonel, for everything. Then Lieutenant Commander Alex Kane, United States Navy SEAL, call sign Ghost, student of Morrison, teacher of the next generation, keeper of promises and carrier of ghosts, closed her eyes and slept. Tomorrow would bring new missions, new students, new challenges. But tonight she rested, because the mission would always be there. And so would she. Ready, watching. Ghost.